Greetings, surface dwellers and fellow adventurers. Today I'm sharing a recipe that was taught to me deep in the halls of Orzammar by a gruff but brilliant Dwarven cook, Nug Pancakes. Now, I don't claim to have the skill of a paragon, but I'm giving it my best, and I invite you to join me as we tackle this hearty and towering feast. Tender, smoky barbecue nug stacked high between fluffy buttermilk pancakes. Now, if you've never encountered a nug before, let me enlighten you. These curious little creatures are a staple in Dwarven culture. Part pet, part livestock. They roam the deep roads, scurrying about with their distinctive squeaks, and while they may look a bit odd, they're prized for their tender, flavorful meat. I'd liken it to a cross between pork and rabbit, though dwarves insist nothing quite compares to a perfectly roasted nug. Of course, catching one is a different matter entirely. So, if you're following along and are fresh out of nug, feel free to substitute pork. Let's dive right in. Every good roast begins with a strong foundation of flavor. For this dish, we'll craft a Dwarven-approved spice rub right in a mortar and pestle. Start with 1 tablespoon of salt and a teaspoon of whole coriander seeds. Toss them into the mortar and take up your pestle. Grind them down slowly, steady as the forge itself. Feel the weight of the stone, hear the crunch. It's almost meditative. Once you've got a nice coarse grind, mix in 1 tablespoon of pepper, 1½ teaspoons of raw sugar, ½ teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of chili powder, and a fiery teaspoon of smoked paprika. For an extra kick, add a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne. Blend it all together. A good rub isn't rushed, and this one is bold and smoky, just like the dwarves themselves. Stir it into a ½ cup of vegetable broth to make a thick slurry and set it aside. Now we prepare the nug. Cut about 2 pounds into 5 or 6 equal pieces, place them in a bowl, and pour the spice slurry over the top. Massage it in generously. My Dwarven teacher always said, "Season it like you mean it." Cover the bowl and let it marinate for at least 3 hours, or overnight if you've got the time. When you're ready to cook, preheat the oven to 325 degrees. Heat oil in a heavy, oven-safe pot and brown the nug on all sides until golden and fragrant. Pour in the remaining marinade and enough water to barely cover the meat. Cover and cook low and slow for about 3 hours. Check occasionally to ensure it doesn't dry out, and add water as needed. When it's finished, the liquid should just barely cover the bottom of the pot. When the meat is fork tender, shred it into smoky strands and stir in about a cup of barbecue sauce. The smell takes me right back to camp during a deep roads expedition, sharing meals with friends like Scout Harding. I hope she's doing well wherever she is. While the meat rests, we'll tackle the pancakes. Breakfast pancakes may be simple, but these savory ones require a bit more care. In 1 bowl, whisk together 4 room-temperature eggs and 1 3/4 cups of buttermilk. In another, mix 2½ cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, a pinch of salt, and a tablespoon of mixed savory herbs. Melt 3 tablespoons of butter, stir it into the wet ingredients, then fold in the dry mix gently. Lumps are a good thing here. Let the batter rest for 15 minutes. Heat a pan over medium-high heat, melt a bit of butter, and ladle out 3 or 4 tablespoons of batter per pancake. Cook for 2 to 3 minutes until golden, then flip. If your batter looks thick, like mine did here, add a splash of buttermilk next time for thinner pancakes. Stack them under cover to keep warm. Now comes the fun part, assembling our Nug Pancakes. Start with a pancake, add a generous layer of barbecue nug, and repeat until you've got 3 or 4 layers. Skewer it with a wooden stick, or a crossbow bolt if you're feeling dramatic. It's not just practical, it's presentation. And there you have it, Nug Pancakes, a dish worthy of Paragon Varen himself. The smoky, spice nug and fluffy pancakes are hearty enough to fuel any adventurer. I think just figuring out how to eat these is part of the fun. A canary might just bite them off the stick like a kebab, but my human mouth is far too small for that. I usually cut down the side with my fork, making sure each bite has both pancake and nug. My pancakes are much more dense than any made by a decent dwarvish cook, but at least I match the flavor perfectly. The buttermilk provides tang and the herbs accentuate the spices in the nug. The nug itself is really tender, and the depth of flavor it developed during the braise is among the best I've had of any meat, period. Nug gets a bad rap, but prepared this way, I'd choose it over pretty much anything else you'd put in front of me. It's seriously good, and you should not let it pass you by. I may not have the finesse of the Dwarven cook who taught me, but with every attempt I come closer to mastering this feast. If you enjoyed this recipe, like the video, subscribe for more culinary adventures, and share with your fellow travelers. Until next time, eat well, and may your meals always honor the stone.